You can go to a Pilates class thinking you're doing something really good for your body. But because you're going to that class with a skeleton that is misshapen, at best, you're going to get minimal benefit out of that Pilates class. And at worst, you're going to injure yourself.
Hello, and welcome to the Connect podcast. This show is all about helping you connect to your soul's calling so you can take action on it. Because the sweetest success is a blend of discovering your purpose with the inner drive to bring it to life. I'm Sheila, health coach, lifestyle entrepreneur, and mom of two, best known for my online wellness programs, mentoring, and self-love passion. Listen in for inspiring interviews, solo chats, and Q&A sessions that will move you past overwhelm towards what lights you up. Stop accepting good enough and go for your version of great in your health, business, and relationships. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to Interview Day. My guest today will have you looking at your physical health as you age with hope and possibility. Tracy Seider is a publishing editor turned audacious aging coach, host of the Peri and Menopause Movement Club Facebook group, and creator of the online Reshape Method program. She's on a mission to help women over 45 lose the body aches, get the silhouette they love, and age with audacious confidence and strength without doing endless cardio, feeling guilty about skipping workouts, or having your massage therapist on speed dial. We talked about Tracy's figure change, confidence issues, and aches and pains into her mid-40s, biomechanics-based exercises that get you working out smarter, not harder, integrating these movements into real life, and the power of nature in wellness. Tracy, I'm so grateful that you are here today because this is a topic so close to my heart. And I love that you are targeting it to aging women. And yet this is something that all of us can start at any time that sets us up even better the younger we get started.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, chatting with you today. I just love talking about this topic and about what I do because it's like the best kept secret.
I know. And when it comes down to it, some of the things that are the best for us can be the absolute simplest things.
Yes.
Simple, not necessarily easy, because we're
Correct.
needing to retrain ourselves and rejig our lifestyle in a sense. But once we get that machine moving and get our mind in the right place, it's amazing what we can accomplish. I'd love to know, what did you do prior to this work? And what led you into the work that you're currently doing?
Great question. Well, it all boils down really to one word, and that word is alignment, which is a word that a lot of us use. Okay, living in alignment. What I do is putting bodies back in alignment. And thank you for asking me about my story. Maybe if I go into that a little bit, it may be something that a lot of other people resonate with and that they can learn from, because I call myself the accidental movement coach because movement and posture coaching was never on my radar. But as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, right?
True.
And I have a degree in media studies. I'm originally from South Africa, and my specialty is in third world economics and politics. And I edited academic journals in South Africa for a long time. We moved to Canada in 2008, and I carried on working for my clients in South Africa. And then when I hit about 42, I always had some like nagging aches and pains and that from my 30s. And after I had kids, some hip pain, some back pain, some foot pain, all these things that we're told are just a normal part of aging, right?
Yeah.
But when I hit my early 40s, the wheels started to fall off. I mean, I'd always been very active. I've done yoga since I was 15, before it was, a thing. and I always worked out. And I had kind of like this method, a system. We all have the system of, when you start to gain a little bit of weight or feel like you aren't getting strong, how much you exercise, how much you need to eat to get back in shape again, or the shape that you are happy with. Mm-hmm. But when I hit my early 40s, it was like the rules of the game had changed. Right. Yeah, because the system that I'd honed was just not working any longer. It's like the more I killed it on the elliptical trainer, it's like the bigger I was getting. I was like, what is this about? Okay. Mm-hmm. And I would be in terrible pain, like after a workout. I was even teaching yoga part-time. and my hip pain and my back pain and my foot pain. I mean, you choose the pain, I had it, right? Because we've all got these pains that, in fact, we don't even realize we almost have, because so often we just normalize pain because we've had it for so long and we're told that there's nothing you can do about it, just suck it up. Yeah. And then, so, I like exercise through the pain because what choice do you have, right? And then, like at about 44, like that's when the bladder leaking started, which is a thing that many women suffer from, right? And also told that we just need to live with it. And like that was the cherry on top of my midlife misery, as I like to call it. But I was doing everything. I'm a very proactive person. I like to take charge of stuff and look for solutions. So I was doing everything I thought there was to do. I was on this, I call it my health practitioner carousel of physio, chiro, acupuncture, nutritionist, everything. I was trying everything that I knew how to try to help. And my practitioners were all amazing, absolutely amazing. Very, very skilled at what they do. And I would get relief for, a day or two, sometimes a week, but then everything would just come back. Went for all sorts of tests. Thank goodness I was told, that there was nothing wrong with me. I didn't need any kind of medical intervention. I must just exercise more and go on diet and, take painkillers for the pain and other medication for the bladder. But I've always been a little bit of a rebel at heart. And I'm like, no, this intuitively, it just didn't sit right with me. I was like, I'm sure there must be a solution. I'm sure I must be missing something, but I had no idea what that was. But also, I'm a bit of a believer in fate. And that, that Buddhist saying that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right?
I love synchronicity. I'm seeing it this week so much. And so, of course, you're going to talk about it because that's synchronicity.
There we go. Yeah, that's hysterical. So my massage therapist at the time suggested I take a look at the work of a US biomechanist. Her name is Katie Bowman. And she said, Katie's got this incredible book. You should read it. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I've got nothing to lose, right? So I bought the book. It's called Move Your DNA. I highly suggest that everybody listening to the podcast buy a copy and take a listen because it will change your life. Because with each page I turned, it was like, this is it. This is the missing piece. This is what I knew was missing that I couldn't even give a name to. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, yes. Oh, so many times. And interestingly enough, it's happening at midlife.
Yes, always.
It's like we have more time. Well, Here's the thing. It's not that we have more time. We realize that our time is so precious that we are willing to invest the time in finding the solution.
Yes. And I think we also have more, the whole Saturn return, whatever you want to call it, the whole drop of estrogen changes the wiring of your brain.
It does.
I think we are more willing to look out of conventions, of mainstream, right? Because what I do, I say, when you do my program, you need to be curious to step out of the conventional exercise box. Because if you're going to exercise the same way and move in the same way, you're just going to get the same results. Because what Katie Bowman was talking about was alignment. Mm-hmm. Very, very simple. At the most basic level of the body, we are moving human beings. That's what defines us as human. We're not pot plants. We move. And moving requires a mechanical structure. Mm-hmm. So our skeletons, the bones in our body, are not this arbitrary mishmash. It's like, it doesn't matter where it is. No, it's on one level. Okay, there are other levels. I won't go into the other levels of tensegrity and stuff like that. That's certainly there. But at one level, we are a pulley and lever system, right? Mm-hmm. And things need to be in certain places in order and at certain angles for things to work properly. The problem is that by the time we reach midlife, we are a composite of all the movement we've done, but also all the movement we haven't done. And essentially, our skeletons are out of alignment. If we have lived these modern Western lifestyles and spend any amount of time in a chair, which we all have from the age of 6, when they tell us no more circle time, right? We get in a chair and we land up spending many, many hours and many, many years in a chair. And the thing with the body is that it adapts to the position you're in the most. That's what's so amazing about the body, because the body is designed to conserve energy. So if you are in a certain position, the majority of the time, your brain's going to be, oh, right, you really, really like that position. Let me make it really, really comfortable for you to be in that position. And so we become these ninja chair sitters. We sit at school, we sit at university, we sit when we drive, we sit when we work, we sit when we eat. And it's not just sitting, just any old sitting, because, there's studies of more kind of hunter-gatherer cultures like the Seider in Tanzania, and they sit a lot. They sit almost for as long as we sit as Westerners. The difference is that when we sit, we're always sitting in the same geometry. We're always sitting in a conventional chair, which sets us at 90 degrees at the hips and 90 degrees at the knees.
It's so interesting you're sharing all this. Everything you've shared just now is so much. And so as we are letting that kind of sink in and process, a few things come to mind that I'll pull from that.
Mm-hmm.
And the point about from the age of 6, people are sitting most of the day. And then, okay, now go and move your body in for recess or whatever. But sometimes people will just sit down there too. But you're, sitting for quite a while. And as a home educating mom for all these years, I was grateful to have many different positions that my boys could learn in. Sometimes they were lying on the floor under the coffee table. They were on the floor with their legs up over the couch. They were hanging off of something. They were standing. They were pacing. And when they were younger, I felt like, oh, this is great because this is a way for them to get their energy out. And they still retained all the information. However, in a regular school setting, that would be chaos. So that's not maybe possible in a traditional setting. However, I think what you're going to be sharing later about the dynamic movement that is so necessary is something that, wouldn't it be beautiful if that was brought into the school structure? And also, if we, understanding this, we can build this into our culture of work as well. I love when I hear about people doing walking meetings. And so often, if I do phone calls or even video calls, I will stand as much as I can and walk and pace and even outdoors. And so backing up a bit now, so you discovered this because you needed it yourself.
Yes.
How long was it between the time that you discovered this and that you saw benefits, number one, and then that you said, I need to share this?
Right. So not long. The significance of the chair sitting is that, and so I just want to back up a little bit and then I will answer those questions. They're great questions, is that because we have specifically been chair sitting for so long, what we don't realize is that our entire bodies have changed and our skeletons have changed.
Yes.
They've adapted to that chair sitting position so that when you get up out of your chair to go on that walking meeting or to stand at your standing desk, you are now doing that in a body and a skeleton that is no longer stacked up optimally. And that's the problem.
Right. Yeah.
So just like going on a walking meeting or changing to a standing desk, while that's great because it's better, some movement and some difference is always better than none. The thing is, right, and what I learned and why I decided to study this and why I created my own course around this is that in order to then live the rest of your life optimally and functionally and resolve your aches and pains and get maximum benefit out of the movement or walking or standing time that you do, we've got to do the work to get the skeleton, to get the body stacking optimally again. Right. And that is work that is done through really through corrective exercise, because we now have to give our body what it needs because certain muscles have become too tight and sticky, certain muscles have become too loose, certain areas are not working as we lose so much range of motion. We don't even realize all these compensatory patterns that we get. So when I started doing Katie Bowman's corrective exercises, I noticed changes like almost immediately.
Like
Because
how quickly? When you say almost immediately, give me like days, hours,
like
weeks?
days.
Wow. Wow.
Days.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Days. And one of the first things I did, and I could do because I was working from home, is that I remember I called because I was always on the search of the perfect office chair, right? I was like, it had to be my office chair. Like every month I was buying a new office chair because I was convinced that that was what was going to resolve my back pain. If I could just have the just absolutely perfect ergonomic setup, right? Because we told it's ergonomics. If I could just have the right ergonomic setup, everything would be fine. If I could just have the right mattress, everything would be fine. So was buying new mattresses. I was buying new office chairs. I mean, I've still got some of the darn office chairs in the garage. If anybody
You were
wants.
helping the economy, girl.
Yes, and like the podiatrist and the insoles and the special shoes with the special support, all of it that we're being told. And in fact, what I learned is that it's actually not that at all. It's just going back to a more natural human way of moving.
Imagine
that. Imagine that.
Oh my goodness.
So one of the first things I did, I remember I phoned my husband. I'm like, got to come home from work and help me. And what we did was we screwed off the legs of my IKEA desk and I put them on these concrete cylinders so that I could sit on my yoga bolster on the floor and work on the floor, because that is taking you out of the chair sitting position and just changing to a floor sitting workstation. And when I say floor sitting, if anybody's listening, please do not sit directly on the floor. None of us have the range of motion to be able to sit directly on the floor. It's sitting on a yoga bolster on the floor, because now you have to, you're using your body strength. You're using range of motion to get up and down off the floor. How many times a day? You'd pay to go to a movement class to do that. If you're just doing that all day long, it's like, hello.
Right. It's so simple. Oh my goodness.
And it is. But it's simple, but it's not simple, because my body didn't have the range to, I had to work on the corrective exercises. I had to get myself back into alignment, have the right strength, make sure that I wasn't using incorrect movement patterns, because sometimes you can go to a class, you can go to a Pilates class thinking you're doing something really good for your body. But because you're going to that class with a skeleton that is misshapen, the body you're taking to the mat is misshapen. That means you're not, at best, you're going to get minimal benefit out of that Pilates class. And at worst, you're going to injure yourself.
Okay. We need to know this now. Once we're aware of this, how long is it, like you said, within days, to be able to get into some proper alignment so that we're going about doing our yoga class, our gardening, our water sports, whatever the thing that we're going to be doing, in better alignment with more fluidity? And it's not going to be perfect. It never is, but it'll also maybe take time. But what are the first few steps that you would recommend that we do to get ourselves set up for proper movement?
Well, the first step is just awareness. The first step is just awareness. And that is even knowing what optimal alignment is, what anatomical neutral is. That skeleton in your doctor's office is an anatomical neutral. And that is eventually where we want the bones to be, at a certain position relative to each other and relative to gravity. Doesn't have to be 100%, but we want to start moving back in the right direction. And the thing is, we don't even know what that is.
Right.
Right? I was like, oh, ballet dancers look great. Let me put my shoulders up and my chest up and my shoulders back, because those are the kind of posture cues that we've been told. We think, well, that looks good. That must be right. No, not right at all. So even just knowing what good alignment is will start to map that option for your brain. Just even knowing it, just even knowing where your feet should be when you stand. And that's one of the first things I do in the program. So I have a 12-week program. And really, I was just looking at somebody just posted a testimonial in my Facebook group. She was which is just incredible. She was saying after 25 years of foot pain, she's been doing my program for 2.5 weeks and her foot pain is gone.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
you mentioned earlier about special insoles and things like that, when in reality, we were designed to be barefoot.
100%.
And obviously not walking on pebbles and maybe not walking down the sidewalk because we don't know what's there. But like most of the day, we can be barefoot. And curious about when we talk about barefoot, is it important to be completely barefoot or barefoot in socks? Is it more about the stability than anything else?
The stability comes from the muscles, right?
Yes.
And while it is ideal to be barefoot, I know a lot of people, and in fact, one of the barefoot shoe companies was sued, the Vibram's 5 fingers. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're these shoes, because it's like, oh, right, we're meant to be barefoot. So we were taking these bodies, these 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old bodies that are completely adapted to shoe wearing, because we've been shoe wearing since a very, very young age. You need a process of transitioning. You need a process of doing these certain corrective exercises. And what I've done in my program is like I've weaved these together because of my dance and yoga background. I've weaved together these what can be hellish boring corrective exercises, right? If you've ever done physio exercises, like, oh my God, I can't do this another day, right? So I've weaved them together as these fun self-care workouts that are half an hour long, plus other movements and exercises that are very specific for women at our age and stage. You've got to do the work on the mat, getting the strength and the range of motion and the flexibility back into the muscles and the joints and the fascia, the connective tissue in the body that is sticking you in the position you're in. Mm-hmm. Everything about your body is adapted to your current position, which is more than likely out of alignment. If you then suddenly change to a barefoot shoe, there is a high probability that you're going to get injured. Doing the work on the mat is one aspect of my program, and then extending it to your life is another aspect, because you impact your environment, and guess what? Your environment is impacting you.
You can't expect to have 5 exercises that completely fix you in a short time after a lifetime of sitting and moving and walking in this body that we've had for however many years. And if those beautiful stilettos have been part of your wardrobe, I ditched high heels years ago, but they look so pretty. My thoughts are, it's kind of like the 80-20 rule of healthy eating and having a treat. Would you say it's similar to getting dolled up and throwing on some stilettos and going out on the town?
Absolutely. You know what?
If you're in alignment, it's way better.
Yes. I went to an engagement party on Sunday and I wore platforms, but I paid for it the next day. I could feel it in my calves, because the thing is, and I'll have to show this to you visually, and I'll try and explain it using words. Okay. Yeah. One of the very, very important alignment points in the body, one of the critical alignment points, is that your leg is meant to be perpendicular to the ground, 90 degrees. If the anatomical neutral position of the leg, of the femur, is 90 degrees to the ground, if you are putting anything under your heel, all right, it is going to tip your leg forward into a diagonal position, right? Which means you're going to be pushed onto your quads, onto the muscles at the front of your legs, onto your quads and your hip flexors. And that is how, that's a very important alignment point. That is how most of us are, men and women, because we have all been wearing some kind of heel since a very, very young age that is tipping us forward. You know, if you people say, oh, but I don't wear stilettos. I'm like, well, have you put your hand inside your sneaker? Because I can bet you that's got you in a positive heel.
That is so wild.
Unless you are specifically buying a shoe that is being sold and marketed as a minimal shoe, all shoes are going to have you in some kind of heel, in some kind of positive heel, where the back of your foot is higher than your toes. Even a men's dress shoe has a heel. It has like a 1/2-inch heel. If you put a 1/2-inch block under the back of a bookshelf, bookshelf is going to tip forward.
That's such a great analogy. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. Oh yeah, that would hurt. It would fall on me.
And the thing is that if your leg is not 90 degrees to the ground, Right. The point of the leg being 90 degrees to the ground is so that the weight of your body can be held by your heel bone, which is meant to carry the weight of your body. When you're tipped forward a little bit diagonal off 90 degrees, the weight of your body is now over the small bones of your feet, which are meant to be moving. In fact, 25% of the muscles and bones in our body are from our ankle down, which kind of gives us a message that the foot is meant to be doing a lot of work. And in fact, our feet are meant to be as dexterous as our hands, and clearly they're not, right?
Yeah, think about knee pain and all the things that attach to it, and hip pain and all of it, like from not being in proper alignment. Wow, we have so much to learn because it's so powerful to have an idea what your body's actually doing and then what you can do to shift it. And it sounds like there's probably a few small shifts, because there are a few methods that I've done myself. And I see the difference after just a few moments of doing some different movements and assessing myself and how I feel. And having that connection to ourself is so important because it's our body. Nobody knows how we feel except for us.
Absolutely.
And so one other thing I'd love to talk about is, you mentioned it, the purse.
Yes.
Tell me about the purse. Tell me what is a challenge with purses and what is a good alternative for women to be carrying their things around, because we tend to, especially mothers with young children or grandchildren, for instance, right? If we're talking about menopausal women, they got extra things to carry. What should they do?
Purses. Okay, just one thing before we get to purses, what I wanted to say about the sitting desk, right?
Yeah.
Because the great thing that you can do is start just making a coffee table workstation, especially if you work from home or if you bring your work home. Put your laptop, there's a whole section in my module actually called permission to move. Because what you were saying is really, really difficult for people, because we have been told we mustn't move, right? In order to make society run efficiently, we have to actually now, as adults, give ourselves permission to move. So I'm giving you permission to set up a coffee table workstation. If it feels good for you, you put a cushion on the floor, take it as high as you need in order for it to be comfortable. Now, when I first moved to this floor sitting workstation, my kids said to me, "Oh, isn't that uncomfortable? That looks so uncomfortable." Yes, it's very uncomfortable. And you know what that means? That means that every couple of minutes, my body is giving me a cue to move and shift. Whereas when you sit in a chair all day long, we've become these ninja chair sitters. Our bodies have completely adapted to making chair sitting so comfortable. We can sit there for 8, 9, 10, 11 hours a day, no problem.
Yeah. And sometimes people will work through needing to go to the bathroom. I talk to many women. I've done it myself. And it's like, oh, hello. Because you get so focused. Once I finally find the flow, I get so focused. So I'm really good about listening now to my body. But also those times where I'm totally enamored in what I'm doing, the back of my legs, when I get up, it's like, oh, they're so stiff. And I realize I didn't move enough. It's different from sleeping. But even as we sleep, we're not in one position. We're moving. We may be asleep while we're doing it, but we're moving. Our bodies are so miraculous. I marvel at all of these little details. They all give us the ability to live our lives and to do the things that are meaningful for us. But we only often notice the impact of that when something's not working.
Correct.
We're in pain, and the inflammation gets our attention.
And often because we've had it for so long and because there is no resolution, we just normalize it and think we need to live with it. And you absolutely, absolutely don't. And one last thing before we get to the purse. The reason why it's so hard for us to exercise, the reason why people say, I don't have motivation, I'm too busy, we do this, do that. Exercise is not a normal human instinct. Exercise is not normal. Exercise is a relatively new human construct, phenomenon that has been introduced to replace the all-day natural varied movement that the human body evolved for hundreds of thousands of years to do, right? And as modern human beings, because we no longer need to move to survive, and we don't, and the pandemic really showed us we seriously don't have to move to survive. The body didn't get the memo, right? and the body still needs to move a lot and in a lot of different ways. And just ticking off those arbitrary government standards of so many times a week for so many minutes at this intensity. Also, body didn't get the memo.
I feel the same way about like nutritional standards, right?
Yes.
It's like, no. That's just so we're like at a baseline level of health. Like, what about optimal thriving?
Yes.
That's what I'm after.
Yeah. So really that's what we do. We align the body, and then then we add more movement to it. So it's this physical alignment within your body, as well as this mental, emotional, I call it like mindset reshaping, that it's like just this switch, right? That you're like, oh my God. And once you do it, once you realize that like, hey, you don't have to be either sedentary or exercise. Movement can just be part of who you are. And movement is part of who you are. And it's what your body wants.
Yes.
And so many people who do the reshape method, they say to me, I just can't stop moving. I just can't stop moving. Like I never thought I would. Hated exercise all my life, and now I can't stop moving. Yes, humans hate to exercise. We only like to do the things that we evolutionarily need to survive, like eating and sleeping, right?
Mm-hmm.
No wonder we hate exercise.
Right.
Totally normal.
And when you do it in the way that you're describing, it's part of your life.
Exactly.
The idea of I don't have time to move my body doesn't hold up, because it's like you're here, you have to move.
Right. Now to the purse. When you're wearing a handbag over a shoulder, as you move, it's going to fall off. So if you're wearing like I don't know, what like a strap handbag, right, purse, what you don't realize you're doing is that you're actually making these small contractions with your neck and trap muscles to keep that, and even a little bit of a rotation through your rib cage to keep that purse on your shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's also affecting your arm swing as you move, which is really important. Like walking, walking is just a whole other podcast. We can maybe do that another time.
We'll do that one next time.
It's affecting your walk. It's affecting how your body moves when you walk. So, solution, first of all, sorry, Stacey London, you do not need a huge, big handbag, okay? I know the bigger the handbag, the smaller your butt looks. We really need to be carrying less than what we do. I know, like, it didn't matter how big my purse was. It was always just full of crap, okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really, you just need your cell phone and your wallet and maybe a lipstick.
Right. Yeah.
Not even, right?
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's lip balm. I only wear it.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's like beautiful, eco-friendly.
So crossover, like either like a fanny pack, right?
Uh-huh.
Or one of those kind of like crossover, what do they call them? Like postman kind of purses,
right. Yeah.
that are small, right? Small and just enough to hold the things that you need. But again, it's attaching to your body.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you want a shoe that attaches to your body, you want a purse that kind of crosses over so that you can just freely move your body and that purse stays on.
Beautiful.
And it's not adding too much, it's not pulling you too much from side to side.
That's so good to know. And then we can still have our style with our bags, ladies, because there's so many things available that you can find. This has been enlightening. And I mean, our initial conversation was enlightening, but I knew we were going to get more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. And you're pulling together so many pieces of information that I've been getting from different places over the years. I really feel like your passion for what you're doing in helping so many people shines through what you're sharing here today. So I can only imagine the beautiful stories. I'm sure there's tons of testimonials on your website. And one thing that I did want to mention before we go, mention the strength of the bladder, like the pelvic bowl and how that is affected. Like, I guess that is what supports our bladder, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're out of alignment, that's going to impact it. So maybe give me a bird's eye view of how what you're doing helps to improve that.
The butt.
It's the butt. Okay.
It's all about the butt.
There's a song about that.
It's all about the butt because those pelvic floor muscles are not meant to be like holding us up. They're not meant to be doing a ton of work. they're not meant to be stability muscles, right? And what happens is that when you're out of alignment and you can't initiate your movement with your butt, those pelvic floor muscles land up taking on too much of a stability role. Interestingly, as well, one other quick thing. A lot of people are like, oh, I've got bladder leaking, I need to do Kegels. Please don't do Kegels.
Thank God I stopped doing those so long ago.
The problem with a lot of women and also if you do have an issue, please, the first point of call is going to a pelvic floor physiotherapist or occupational therapist to get a diagnosis, because you do not know if your pelvic floor muscles are too tight or too loose. Many of us think the problem is that we're too weak, but actually at least 80% of women in our age category, I'm not talking about geriatric, I'm not talking about children, they are actually too tight. And so Kegels are just going to make the tight muscles even tighter. And the reason why they are too tight is because the glutes are not doing what they're meant to do, because those glutes kind of feed into the pelvic floor muscles. As those glutes move your leg, the glutes are meant to move our leg. But for most of us, the glutes aren't moving our leg anymore when we walk. The quads are moving the leg. So those pelvic floor muscles lose tonicity. All right. Now, the body doesn't want weak, slack muscles in that area that's meant to hold up all the pelvic organs and the bladder. So they land up tightening. They land up getting shorter and tighter. So when we get the right movement patterns back, when we get the right alignment back, when we get the right length in our calves, right, and working in conjunction, of course, with a pelvic floor physiotherapist, for a lot of people, the issues resolve.
It's amazing when we give our body what it needs, whether it's what we're taking into our body or what we're doing with our body can self-regulate.
It can.
I'm grateful that we connected, and thank you so much for being here, Tracy.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just love what you are doing and the important message that you are giving out to the world as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Everyone, thank you for listening. It's been such a pleasure to go through this process of learning all of what our bodies are capable of if we give them what they need. We'd love to hear how this landed for you. What is the one thing that stood out the most to you from what you heard today? I'm sure there were many, but I would love it if you would let us know. You can DM us or you can shout us out on Instagram, and make sure you go to the show notes. You'll see where to find everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and we'll see you on another episode. Big blessings. Thank you so much for being here with me on the Connect podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with someone you think would enjoy it. Also, if you head over to iTunes to leave a review, I'd be so grateful. Let us know what your favorite parts were and what you'd like to hear more of. It will help us have a greater impact, elevating many more people to grow and succeed together. See you next time.